I'm embarrassed to admit that I can't even sew on a button, but there's hope for me yet. My first guest brought the tools and the talent, so let's get it going. New Day Northwest starts right now.
It's a new day.
Now, from the Virginia Mason Franciscan Health Studio at King 5 in downtown Seattle, this is New Day Northwest.
Good morning and welcome to New Day. I'm Kelly Hansen, and I have to say I'm feeling extra creative today. Luckily, my first guest fits that vibe perfectly. He's one of the Mariners jersey guys who's now flipping the jersey game on its head. His custom creations have caught the attention of players like J.P. Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and much more. And his name is Paul Bohl, but around the clubhouse and on social media, he's known as Stitchgod. And he's here with us now. Welcome to the show, Paul.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You brought some of your creations.
Yeah,
You're going to show me something in a little bit, but I hear you grew up in Buffalo, New York, but you always knew you wanted to work for the Mariners. Tell me about this story.
I mean, I really, the Seattle always was like, for me personally, I felt like the vibe of Seattle was something that I always kind of resonated with, where it's kind of like anti-normal, anti-the system, and being in Buffalo is like a blue-collar place where you kind of end up stuck somewhere, and I always just had a vision that something was waiting for me in Seattle, and I came out here, and it was.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
I didn't even know how to sew before I moved here.
You didn't?
No.
How did you get your foot in the door, though, with the Mariners, and what does your job really entail?
So when I first moved out here, I met a guy by the name of Jerry Thornton, who owns a sports lettering company called STT Sports Lettering, right down the street here, actually. And I basically told him what I just told you, that it's always been a dream of mine, and he told me if you come out here and you have enough drive behind you, I will not only teach you how to do this job, but I will also teach you a skill that will and did change my life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, when you think about little Paul and now where you're at and living your dream and what you said from a young age that you wanted to do, did you ever think you would be here?
No, I didn't at all. I didn't even, I mean, the idea was always just like, I just want to be in Seattle, and I never really at all thought that it could be what it is. And I've had so many pinch me moments over like the last 2 or 3 years, but especially over the last like month or so. It's been like how I'm intertwined with Seattle sports, and it's like
mind blowing.
It's mind blowing. Yeah, it really is.
What does your job entail then? Like if a player's jersey has something wrong with it, do you help out with that, or what does it look like?
So my day to day is any kind of like repairs, like in the stadium that the team might need, or the visiting team, or even umpires sometimes. Oh. But if you also came in and wanted Hansen on the back of a jersey, I do that as well.
You know it.
Yeah.
Or New Day.
Yeah,
Who knows?
New Day. We could do it.
King 5 Kelly.
King 5 Kelly. That's a good one.
There you go.
There it is.
Clearance rack. Do you use a lot, or what?
So when I initially started doing things, it was clearance rack, because I was just wanting to take jerseys apart for myself to put whatever on the back. But now it's more eBay. It's looking for people that have old jerseys that want to get rid of them. One of my last major like pickups was on Facebook, actually. Some guy was selling like a bunch of jerseys. So, but the point is that you got to just keep them coming in, and then everything gets put back into
the jersey and has like a new life. You were telling me about this one. Yeah. How many lives has that jersey had?
So this one started as either Nelson Cruz or Robinson Cano, and then I had Tom Murphy on the back of it, and now it says Moore on the back, who is still one of my favorite players ever. So
very cool. Yeah. It's so intricate, so unique. You're gonna show me something right now. What's this demo?
So we're just gonna take the number off of this one.
And this is kind of your process, right?
Yeah, so this is the process where you would have something that was once something else, and then you kind of just go along the stitches here, and then what you do is once you get the number off, it ends up going to its next life. But the first important thing is to make sure that it's always on an angle where you're not cutting it too much, but I also like to leave the imperfections of whatever happens while I'm doing it. And like I was telling you before, most of it is reflective on the mood that I'm in that current moment. I try to look at it like a painting now, where like if there's a rip or a tear or there's threads still, like these ones right here still have the threads.
Yeah, it's like a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, so it's kind of like me symbolizing who I am, where I'm rough around the edges too, and I've had some of my threads not come out that are still there, but the goal behind all of it is to kind of just be okay with who you are and how it is, no matter how bad things get, or no matter how dirty it is, or no matter how ripped it is, that you're still a person, you're still representing who you are every day. And that's kind of what a Stitch head has become, where somebody who's just proud to be who they are. And that's kind of what the goal is behind the whole thing. And in that amount of time I just told you all that number is already ready to come off.
That is, you did that wicked fast.
Yeah.
What would you think too while you're still going, like Julio Rodriguez, was that your big break? What would you look back and kind of say, wow, that was the moment people really started catching on with what I was doing?
Well, I'm going to say that I think that my big break is still on its way.
Oh, yes,
I
like that. That's good.
I'm definitely still waiting for, there's a big moment coming on the horizon. But I actually met Julio very randomly before anybody really even knew who Julio was. And that was how I ended up with chatting with him with things. And then he kind of just told me, like, hey, man, anything that you want to throw my way, I'll definitely wear it or whatever. And then I think 2 seasons ago now, I made a jacket for him, and he walked in wearing it, and just like that. And then you go like that. And now your number is ready to go.
One of my favorite numbers, too, is 4, too. So that's looking pretty good.
I would definitely say that Julio wearing my Ichiro jersey this year, though, got me a ton of attention, and that was really cool because
that's iconic.
Yeah, he loves Ichiro, and I love Ichiro. So just to be able to do that for him, especially like during the time that it was, and that was my guy growing up who made me a Mariner fan in the first place. So that was a very full circle moment for me, for sure.
And we're looking at some of your pieces too
up
there. You've done so many different things.
Look at that.
Not even just for the Mariners. I mean, obviously there's some pictures there too with Julio and other Mariners, but you've done stuff for other teams. Like I see here the Kraken.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about this piece too that you brought in?
So that one right there was kind of just me kind of playing around with how that's actually how it all got started for me, as Kraken jerseys. I turned into a jacket. That's how Stitch God really started. And just like that, we have another number off.
Yours wicked fast over there, Paul. I love the front of this, too.
Yeah, so the front was kind of just like being from, no offense, but being from Buffalo, it's kind of hard for me to like any other team besides, and there's going to be threads everywhere.
No, it's good. We like the mess.
It's hard for me to rep any other team besides anything in Buffalo, but I had been around the Kraken, and there you go, there's a 1.
Thank you.
I had been around the Kraken, and I was like, well, what's a way that I could still do what I do and have it represent who I am.
Right.
And so that front patch is something that would have been on a jacket back in the day. And now it's a Kraken.
It's giving 90s, it's a vibe.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Where do you see your business going in the next 5 years?
I mean, ideally that's a tough question, because ideally what I'd like to have happen eventually is that the concept of celebrating a player's entire career to make its way onto a field or a court or the ice in some way. And obviously the celebration of the uniform is a very important thing, but the story that goes along with a player in their career and where they were. And I think when it comes to 5 years from now, I think that my goal every time is that the last jersey that I did, the next one I do is better. So I'm hoping that in 5 years from now, it's just so good that it can't be ignored.
Well, you definitely, sky's the limit with you. Thank you for being here and showing your talent with all of us.
Yeah.
How can people follow you real quick?
So my Instagram is Stitchgod716. Don't forget the second T, because people always forget that. So yeah, Stitchgod716 is where you can find me. Yeah.
Crushed it. Thank you so much. And next, it's getting darker outside by the minute, and we need things to watch as we cuddle up inside. We're filling up your content plate with some movie recommendations from someone who knows a thing or two about films. Plus, we have a bit of cozy inspiration when it comes to your fall decor. Lucky Home in Issaquah is giving fall and wants to help you give the same. And then a fall favorite is back on tap. We're sampling standout pours from Hops on the Rock, Orcas Island's annual craft beer festival. Around here, we're always in need of new content to binge after a long day, and it's also the perfect cozy weather for staying in and watching a movie. Here to give us some recommendations to add to our watch list is the Vice President of the Seattle Film Critics Society, Chase Hutchinson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is perfect, like season-wise, to sit and cozy up, watch a movie. Tell us about you and what you do.
So I'm a local film critic, and me and my colleagues in the Seattle Film Critics Society regularly review movies, but also have been working to get more involved with the local community of filmmakers, making exciting work here and putting on screenings, talking about them with lovely folks like you, and just trying to spread the word as much as we can.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm excited to hear your little movie review roundup today. We're starting with your first one, Train Dreams. What can you tell me about this?
So Train Dreams is one of the most beautiful movies shot in the state ever. I know that's starting off with a big claim, but once you have seen this movie, it changes you. It's based on the Dennis Johnson novella, directed by Clint Bentley, starring Joel Edgerton, who was in Boys in the Boat from a couple years back. But this movie is actually shot here, and it captures the state with such a gorgeous eye. It is like Terrence Malick has put his camera on the state, and it is about a man growing and changing as America leaves him behind as a day laborer in the Pacific Northwest, and it's a really remarkable work.
Oh my gosh, the cinematography, like you're saying, is incredible, and it really is such a beautiful ode to Washington State. And we love that it was actually filmed here.
Yes.
So that's great. Number 2, Twinless.
So Twinless I have to be a little bit coy about. It is written, directed, and starring James Sweeney alongside heartthrob Dylan O'Brien, for those people that are interested in that. It's about two guys that meet up after a loss. There has been a significant pain in both their lives, and they begin hanging out together. They begin growing closer, and then something turns on its head. What that is, I cannot say, but to me, it is about the transformative power of the Seattle Kraken, because two of the significant scenes in the movie take place there, and they capture this like really remarkable moment of everyone cheering and being excited, but our two bros sad in their chairs. And I will leave it up to the film as to why that is, but it's a remarkably acted, written, directed movie that will keep you on your toes.
Okay, that's such a tease. You can't really give a lot away with that one. Okay.
It would ruin a bit of the fun, but I'll say that not everything is what it seems in how they meet. That's what I'll say.
Okay, I like that. Third on the list, To Kill a Wolf.
So this is one of the more underrated movies of the year. It's the directorial debut of a Washington filmmaker, Kelsey Taylor. And it is a modern reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood, where it's about a woodsman living in the woods and then a younger woman who stumbles into the forest, and he rescues her and saves her and is going to take her home, but home is not a safe place for her. Home is not a place that she can be herself. And it is about kind of unpacking that. It's a very understated drama. It's a very painful drama, but it's a deeply felt drama. It's also remarkably well shot in the region. It captures kind of the spooky feeling of the woods, but also the magic of it too at the same time. And I would say it's one of those movies that if you haven't seen it or haven't heard people talking about it, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to say there are movies being shot here by first-time filmmakers that could be the next person you're wanting to see everything they ever make. And I would say this is definitely an example of that.
Ooh, okay, exciting. Fourth on your list, WTO/99.
So this is our documentary. We have a couple, but this is about the WTO protests that took place in Seattle, as the title suggests. It's directed by Ian Bell and is an entirely archival documentary, meaning it is relying on old footage, news broadcasts, amateur people just going around capturing what was happening. And it is, in my mind, the most essential portrait of this period of time. It is not just about the day by day of what happened, but about what it meant, what it represents, how it was leading to this big turning point for the city, for the state, for the country, and how that didn't come to pass. And it's a very unique snapshot of a moment in time that is really timeless. It was recognized by the Critics' Choice Awards as one of the best archival documentaries of the year. And it's an essential film to see if you've lived in Seattle or have any interest about its history and its relevance to now.
Beautiful. And last on your list, Not One Drop of Blood.
So this is another documentary, and it is about a mysterious series of cattle mutilations that were happening in the Pacific Northwest, bringing it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And it kind of surprising everyone how they would be discovered. There'd be no blood. There would be no sort of evidence of who did this, why it was happening.
I remember seeing that.
But it becomes much more than that. It's not just about piecing together in a true crime way what happened, but about how this has an impact on people. Who are the types of people living in these communities where something like this happens? How does this reflect what their day-to-day lives are like? It zooms out in a way to create a portrait of community, of isolation in a way that is really, really striking. And I know it's a bit of a heavy note to end on, But I think it's another really, really essential work that is worth checking out.
Oh, definitely. You have events throughout November. What are other ones coming up?
So those are our big ones. We have Train Dreams that I started out with, which is showing Wednesday at the SIF Cinema downtown. And even though this is a Netflix movie and they have big awards for the Oscars this year, this is their best one and is definitely worth seeing on the screen if you can. It's going to be kind of magical. And then later at the SIF Film Center, we show all the other films in later November. We're going to have filmmakers coming to do Q&As, talk about their work, local filmmakers who are doing really exciting things and are really worth supporting and coming to check out, especially because of how relevant and how grounded it is in the state.
Before we leave, because you are who you are, what is your favorite movie of all time, if you had to pick?
This is like the letterbox question, and it's always an incredibly painful one. I'll say my favorite film of this year.
Okay.
It was this film called April. And it's really hard to track down now, and I'm hoping it can come out soon, but it played at SIF, and it's this Georgian drama, The Country, Not the State. And it's about this woman working in a medical environment where she comes under immense scrutiny for performing abortions in the community. And it's a portrait in courage, it's about isolation, it's about real connection to work and helping people. It's incredibly shot, it's really haunting work. That's the big movie of the year that I would say if you haven't seen that, try and find a way to do so however you can.
We're going to check it out. Thank you for being here. And coming up next, we're heading to Lucky Home in Issaquah for cozy fall inspiration from pumpkins to candles and everything in between. See how layering textures and seasonal touches can create a stunning fall tablescape. It's fun sitting down in what's really my second home here on the New Day set, and all the fall decorating has been done for me. And if you're looking for a fall tablescape to wow visitors or just change things up, New Day producer Susie Wiley got inspiration from our friends at Lucky Home.
Okay, so we are putting together a fall tablescape, and I think the hardest part is not knowing if it's too much or not enough.
Well, this is a lot.
This is a lot. But, you know, sometimes you put out just a pumpkin and a floral and then call it good, but it doesn't quite work together.
Yeah.
So you're going to show us how to kind of pull an entire tablescape together.
I will. And the scale of this one is larger, but you know, sometimes you want something large on a coffee table or an entry table, or maybe you have a fireplace that you want to do a
dining table.
Down a dining table. Yeah, absolutely. That would be a really big one.
So we start with inspiration, you said. Where did yours come from?
My inspiration came from this beautiful runner that came in.
Really
it's kind of in between a purple and a burgundy, or maybe people would call it an aubergine.
We just like to say that.
With a little embroidery of the sunflowers on it. I think it's just beautiful.
And not traditional.
Not traditional colors.
Is use some things that you have, you love, or that just speak to you, like this one.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we pulled that color in with a lot of traditional colors in here too. And I love it. And actually, it even came in a little pillow, and I just love this whole grouping of the velvet pillows that match it.
Okay, so the next step you said is you pick a container, and this is quite spectacular.
This is an incredible container. This is a hand-carved bowl out of Indonesia, and they all are one of a kinds, different shapes and sizes. Generally, these ones are fairly good size, but there's also a lot of different smaller options of things that you have.
If you have a smaller space, or if you don't want anything, maybe you just want this to go on a little side table.
Exactly.
You have things like this that are smaller. Okay, so we have our container, and you really love this one because it brings in that natural. I know you've
and
said.
I love how it curves up. Just lots of character to it.
Character.
And the way I start is, first of all, I like to do kind of a layer of either some sort of stems. We did some greens in here and then added kind of a little bit of the rosy copper to
Okay,
go
so you're
along
going to
with
lay
it.
those down first. Everything's out at this point. Lay these down.
And then I kind of pick out, like for me, since it's fall, I wanted to do our beautiful glass pumpkins. I mean, these are absolutely incredible. They're kind of sinking down in here, but just absolutely gorgeous.
And we should say the store is actually brimming with glass pumpkins.
we believe in glass pumpkins. And so I've done some that are a little more rounder and flat. Done tall ones, so just a little
because that's important.
focal.
You want that height
different height, different locations. And I stayed within maybe 3 to 4 different color ranges of it, but all kind of a rich flavors.
And going back, of course, to our inspiration, we need to call back to the runner for inspiration.
And I decided we needed some other color in here to pull it out. So the little hydrangeas kind of pull the yellows, and even there's a little of that, burgundy aubergine in there as
and
well.
the textures, they play a role too, right?
Absolutely.
Because you have the sleek glass, but then you have the rougher texture, right?
From the
happening
flowers,
here.
and even in your succulents here. Look at the different kinds of textures. And that's another nod that I drew back in from the runner, is the coloring of that purple to also pull not just the green succulents, but a lot of the
okay.
succulents that actually has those natural colors that come that way.
And seeing the burgundies or aubergine.
And yeah, isn't
if
this
you will.
pretty? Just even
Yeah,
the
really
little,
pretty.
I mean, these little succulents. And literally you just start poking.
Right.
You know, you kind of fill, leave maybe a few places open.
So
but-
that was a question that I was going to ask you is what do you do to step back and say too much, not enough? What's the process there?
You don't want to use all the same greens. Like I said, we use some with the coloration in there, some that are not, but you also want to use different shapes, and you don't want to just overkill it. And that's exactly what you have to do, is just step back and look at it.
Remove some things, add some things.
Exactly.
And I seasonally would have looked at this and thought, oh, that's too light to put with something, but you're saying no, especially when you're mixing greens.
You don't want all the
different
flat
colors.
same color.
Yeah,
You
which
really
makes
don't.
sense when we
and
look at
then
the forest.
You know, because you look at the lights here and
Right.
some of the real darks found in these. But then also that is a good base for any time of season.
Right.
You can take this whole thing, pull out your pumpkins, maybe pull out your succulents. It's got the purple and burgundies
Right.
in it, and just add a light color for spring.
And I'm thinking if you were to use something much smaller here, you would still start the same way, right? With maybe a green layer here.
Exactly.
And then you'd put
And show some of your wood though. You want that wood to
Right.
show. And if you have a little more space left on your table, you can always do like a little grouping off to the side, or for
okay.
fall, maybe you want to leave your pumpkins are too big, put on there. Put a couple little pumpkins right beside it. And
use
kind
some
of
greens and the florals here and put
Yeah.
your pumpkins off to the side.
And use this as kind of part of the grouping and not everything on it.
I like that idea. Okay, the last thing we want to talk about when we're putting our table together, you say we often forget the scent.
You can make your house feel like a season, like fall, by the scent people smell when they come in. And here's just some great examples of some candles. They've got pear and pomegranate and pumpkin and sandalwood and oh my gosh, just incredible scents. People will walk in the store here and just say, I know, that's a good one. And look at the beautiful vessel it comes in. I don't know if you can see that sparkle that's in there in the gold.
And now if I'm not going to light this, could I also use it almost in decor as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nestled inside?
And often if people want to light it in there, you know, you can buy just a clear little vase that comes up a little bit higher, and you can still put it in your centerpiece if you want your centerpiece to glow.
And I should say these are wonderful because they smell great even if you're not lighting them.
Oh, they do.
throughout the day.
We've got lots of fragrance going here without even lighting a candle.
We often forget the scent, so that's important. All right, I think we're ready for fall and entertaining.
We are.
And we're ready for fall here. I found one of the glass pumpkins here, so I feel excited about that. Thank you, Susie. All the designers at Lucky Home in Issaquah's Gilman Village can help you design a tablescape. You can start from scratch or work in new items with whatever you already have. And next, craft beer, island charm, and a festival that's brewing up something special. We're checking out Orcas Island's Hops on the Rock, and yes, there will be samples.
It's a new day.
If you know me, you know I love cats, but none of my cats have been able to do what this one can, at least that I know of. Evening St. Brian introduces us to a feline with a special talent that's nothing to hiss at.
Meet Cole. He may look like an ordinary black house cat, but he's become one of Washington State's most famous felines, with 60,000 TikTok followers and a gift that defies explanation.
I had really gotten interested in tarot and astrology on my own, and I had left a deck of tarot cards in a cup holder in the couch. And he's just very observant, and one day he decided that he was going to start shuffling the cards, which he does with his paws, and then he grabbed a couple with his mouth and just kind of plopped them on the carpet, and I just couldn't believe what I had seen.
Emily reinforced Cole's behavior with treats. Cole kept doing it. And the accuracy? Hard to ignore. When Cole selected a 7 of swords, symbolizing loss, with the lovers reversed, that spoke to Emily's recent heartbreak.
And that's been really just things you can't ignore when there's too many coincidences. So yeah, it's actually proven quite interesting.
For many, tarot cards act as a mirror, revealing unspoken truths at play in a person's life. When Emily began posting videos to TikTok under the account My Cat Does Tarot, she racked up nearly 2 million views and hundreds of requests for readings. Cole came from the Humane Society in Tacoma, a rescue with a peculiar personality.
In fact, he's terrified of people, which is the reason we decided to do this interview over Zoom.
Yes, he's quite skittish. He's very afraid of other people. Anytime he hears a doorbell or a package being delivered or any sign of a visitor, he will hide.
So it's kind of ironic that he's one of the most famous cats in Washington State.
It's very ironic.
Want to have your fortune told by a tarot card reading cat? There's really only one rule. Get on the waiting list.
These are the chosen ones. You can't really schedule an appointment with a cat because they're going to do what they want when they want. And just when inspiration tends to strike him, I try to capture it with my cell phone.
A rescue cat, afraid of strangers, is now touching lives around the globe. Sometimes magic finds you, and sometimes you rescue it.
I know, you want your treats, right? That's what this is all about.
That was precious. And now, what do you get when you mix island charm with some of the best brews the Northwest has to offer? You get Hops on the Rock, Orcas Island's annual craft beer festival, and it's back this Veterans Day weekend and bigger than ever. And joining us is Rick Hughes, co-founder of the festival, and yes, he brought samples.
I did bring some samples for 9:30 in the morning.
Oh,
I
know. We're so excited for that. Before we taste test, tell me why you started Hops on the Rock.
Right, so this was about 8 years ago, I think in 2018, and 5 or 6 of us that were really good friends, we felt like November is the worst time of the year for our community because there's no one there. And so a lot of folks celebrate not having a lot of tourists, but the business owners are struggling. We got payroll to meet. And so all of us wanted to give back to the community. So we're a total nonprofit. All the money we make goes to the chamber. We don't get a dime out of it. I mean, we go to dinner once and get a great sweatshirt. But it's really, so I own the pharmacy. The gentleman who owns the market is there. There's a chimney sweep guy, one of the original breweries on the island. The Lower Tavern, I think, said that, and then the Chamber of Commerce rep. So it also became, we're such really good friends that it was an excuse for us to get together every week, throughout the year to plan an event that is insane. We do all this planning for a one-day, 5-hour event, and then it's time for next year.
And it's your 8th year, you were saying already.
We missed 1 year in the pandemic.
Okay. And what can visitors expect when they come to this festival?
Well, it's great. I mean, there's nothing better Northwesty, if that's a word, than drinking beer outside in November, freezing, and listening to live music and having great local food. So it's just an amazing weekend. And we only lost 1 tent in a storm, which was great. But
great.
We've had up to 1,000 people, so it's a really great event. And imagine bringing 600 or 700 people to a small community. And there's nothing better, in my opinion, than fall on Orcas Island. I mean, it's just a beautiful time of year. You can't, leaves are changing, and there's always some crazy fun stuff to do. You can go mushroom hunting, and, all that kind of stuff.
What's new this year, too?
The biggest thing we're going to try to do is do bottle service. So, in the past, if you've wanted to buy something that was there, you had to go into one of the stores, but we haven't always had the beer. So a lot of these folks will bring out specialty beers. So it's that seasonal beer that they're going to do. For example, the Dow of Manny's literally came out today. So we're trying to get that Northwest beer that represents, that's hard to find, but it's also great. So this allows someone to come take something back. Plus, the brewers don't pay a lot of money to be involved with us. So if they can make, it's expensive to come to the island for a weekend. So it helps them out with getting access to some extra money and helps them want to come back.
Okay, taste test time. Where are we starting?
We're going to start with a beautiful, and by the way, these we've got Fremont Pike and Georgetown. These are kind of the quintessential Northwest, some of the older breweries, and they're the biggest of the microbrews here in our state. So this is a non-alcoholic beer.
Non-alcoholic. So we're starting, you're easing me into it. Okay.
Yeah, and so just look at this one. Tell everyone this is what we're drinking the whole time.
47 calories. That's it. Okay. Great. I'm going to taste test.
Tell you what, it's going to be citrusy maybe?
Please, yeah, tell me what notes.
I have no idea. I run a pharmacy. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, that's the best thing when you're just taste testing. Do you like it or do you don't? I love it. It tastes definitely like beer. I would not be able to tell that was non-alcoholic.
That's great. And we try to make sure that all the folks bring opportunities that aren't alcoholic. So we have a new kind of, I don't know,
push
all sorts of different push to make people they can come to the event and have a really good time and not have to be drunk or have too much. And we've been fortunate that we've never had an incident and people are
Yeah.
have a great time.
Exactly. What's
right.
next? A
So
cider?
now we're going to go to a cider. And so we've got,
This is my fave.
what I forgot to mention is that we have close to 30 breweries, cideries, and wineries. So this is a beer festival, but we also love a little Washington-made
cider is such, oh.
There you go.
It just is perfect for fall. This is what I think. Okay,
Well,
let
another
me
thing
see.
that's really great about this festival is that it's only Washington companies.
Oh, that's
So,
delicious.
You know, we try to support Cheers.
Cheers.
How much
That
of this are we
is-
drinking?
I know. I'm pacing myself. This is so good. It's
Good.
not overly sweet. I do not care for a sweet cider. This is very crisp, dry, delicious. That's a favorite for sure. Okay, what's next?
So we're going to try, this is, like I said, the Dow of Manny, which if you get anyone's familiar, Manny is Georgetown Brewery here in the area. And they only sold keg beer for the longest time. So this is kind of a new thing, but this literally came out today.
Today. Gosh.
So this is going to be a West Coast IPA.
Can you pick like a favorite beer? Is it just hard for you to?
Oh, well, I like dark beers, so it's
You're
like
more of a dark.
stout, and it's kind of like having your breakfast while you're, having a beer.
Cheers. Okay, here we go. I could smell that as I was going in.
So it's going to be bittery, is more of a, it's like I said, it's a West Coast, so it's like a fresher hop, but
That
it's
is fresh.
So 75% of all the hops that's used in America come from Washington State or Walla Walla area or Yakima area. So we have this ability in the region to get localized hops to market super fast.
Interesting.
So a lot of these local brews, they're really getting beer out the day or the day after they finish it. So you don't get that with a big beer.
Okay, what's
all right.
next? Space Needle?
Space Needle.
I really liked that. I was surprised. I don't know. Oh, is it the other one, the orange one, right? Space Needle? Or what's that? Or you want to do that?
Let's do this one.
Let's do it. Whatever. What's this guy?
This is a hop.
Okay.
A hoppy head full of fresh hops. So it's
From
going to be more of
Fremont.
an East Coast IPA. And so when you think of like hazy IPAs, that's going to be more of an East Coast. Cheers.
Oh, again, cheers. I'm really liking everything that you're bringing. Very good. Okay. Nothing's like overpowering or, I don't know. It's very light, fresh, crisp. Okay, moving on.
So should we make an attempt at the big tavern beer?
Let's do it. I'm going to bring these big cups.
Okay.
All right, what's this big jug about?
Practice this at home. So again, Manny's. Could you hold this for me?
Yes.
Let's do this together here.
Okay.
So Manny's. This used to be the smallest container you could buy a Manny's from.
What?
Was a growler.
Look at how much you're pouring for me too. Oh Lord. Okay, want me to help you here? We got to get our last cheers in. True. And now, here we go. Our last one to try. See if it's our favorite. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. Whoa.
Right? So this is supposed to be the Rainier
It is.
independent brewery, right? So it's like Olympia or Rainier.
I didn't want to offend. I was like, it's giving Rainier.
So this is just providing that base level beer, and then everything else has a little bit more experimentation and different flavors.
I can tell this is your favorite, isn't it?
You can't. Oh, maybe. I'm a
You don't
cider
have
guy
to say.
too.
You don't have to say. Okay, I'm a cider girl. Thank you for being here. And don't miss Hops on the Rock in Orcas Island on Saturday, November 8th. This 21 and older festival is your ticket to fall flavor in the San Juans.
And you can get tickets at hopsontherock.org.
You heard it.
.com.
And when we come back, we're talking with the author of a new book that's not about celebrating the beautiful trees in our local forests, but the ones in our cities and our backyards. So stay with us. Welcome back. Washington, it's the evergreen state. So obviously we love all of our beautiful forests and trees. But what about the urban trees in our cities like Seattle, Tacoma, and even Spokane? This new book called The Trees Around You by Casey Clapp is a guide to helping us all recognize and appreciate the beautiful trees in our streets and our backyards. And Casey joins me now. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're going to talk trees.
Let's do it. I'm ready for it.
So you say we have nearly 4 times as many species planted in our cities than natively in our forests. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah, it's kind of a surprising thing to realize, but it's more that we plant a lot of ornamental trees in our cities. Our native trees, we have a beautiful diversity of conifers specifically, obviously, like you said, the evergreen state. But those are only really a small portion of the number of trees that we actually have in our cities. We bring trees from Europe and Southeast Asia and the eastern United States, and we have such a great climate, we can plant them here and they'll grow like gangbusters. They get just as big as our other trees. Maybe not quite as tall, but they grow really fast.
Oh, that's so cool. A tree ID can feel like a daunting task. What do you suggest for people?
Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, you walk around, you see these huge things all over the place and you don't really know what you're looking for.
At least I don't.
Exactly. You are not alone.
Thank you.
So the way that I always suggest is first just go outside. Go outside and look at the trees and start to notice the individual differences. Because like I said, there's 4 times as many trees in our cities as there is in our native forest. So you're going to run past different trees every other block. You'll see a new tree as you go from your house to your neighbor's house. So first off, just look outside, see what the trees are, and then of course grab my book and it will tell you all the little bits and parts to look for, because every tree has a little trait here or there, some small thing that you can find that will kind of give it away. And if you know what you're looking for, then you know exactly what you're looking at on that tree.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
This book curates a list of trees that you can expect to see right where you live. We're going to take a look at some now. What are we seeing here? This is beautiful.
Yeah, this right here is a species that grows natively. Well, actually, it's a hybrid between 2 horse chestnuts, and those are also known as buckeyes if you're familiar with Ohio State University.
Oh.
So this is a pink hybrid that grows between 2 different species we've hybridized out, and we plant them all over the place.
Stunning. Okay. Oh, love.
These.
Iconic.
These are the Yoshino cherries. These are actually a small grove in Portland just off of Flanders and 28th Avenue. And this is in the spring. These are the cherries that you would see if you are walking to find the cherry blossom festivals all over the place.
Always, always in. Ooh, this is beautiful. Is this a willow tree?
Not
No?
a willow. You're close.
Oh.
This is an elm. That's an American elm tree, and that's in another park in Portland. And that is one of the most iconic trees of the urban area because we planted them all over the place, every single city. But sadly, they're the ones that are getting Dutch elm disease. So that is a rare tree now. They don't get near that big, and most of the time they're being cut down. So this is a shot from the Arboretum in Portland, and I wanted to take this and put it in the book to show this looks like a forest. This looks like you're in the middle of some wild jungle. But in fact, if you, if the fog was to go away, you'd be looking out towards Vancouver, and you're right in the middle of a city with a huge diversity of trees just like that.
Beautiful to see, so diverse. Oh, fall colors.
Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is a catalpa tree. I'm sorry, not a catalpa. This is a katsura tree. This is growing in another park, and the light just hit it so perfectly. It's one of my favorite shots in the entire book.
Oh, stunning. And this
is a Hiba cypress. Excuse me. This is a tree that grows native to Japan, and it looks really similar to our native western red cedar. But here's the trick with these scale leaf conifers. If you just flip their leaves upside down, which is what I'm showing here, you can see a pattern that gives away the species in just one look.
It's so cool to have your book and be able to cruise around and, you know, see the different trees and look. How did you get into studying trees?
Yeah, it's a great question. Excuse me. So I ended up learning about trees first through landscape architecture. I wanted to design landscapes, and I quickly learned I didn't want to do that. So switched over to forestry at Oregon State, then realized that was way too far in the other direction, and ended up learning about urban forestry and arboriculture, which is dealing with trees in the urban area. So instead of going out in the wild forest and growing trees to cut them down, I learned how to grow trees and take care of them to make them as big as possible in our urban areas around where we live and work and play.
And now look at you, board certified master arborist. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
And coming up next, we'll explore the debate over preservation and safety with Seattle's Gasworks Park. Historian Feliks Banel joins me next, so stay tuned.
It's a new day.
Gasworks Park is one of Seattle's most iconic landmarks, known for its sweeping views and towering remnants of the city's industrial past. But a recent proposal from Seattle Parks and Recreation to remove ladders, catwalks, and other climbable features from the historic towers has sparked debate, balancing public safety with historic preservation. And after hours of intense debate, the Seattle Landmarks Preservation Board voted to reject the plan. To help us understand the deeper history behind these towers and why they matter so much is historian Feliks Banel. Great to see you again.
Good morning, you too.
So, first of all, we need to say that the proposal came about because of safety, and in this case, the loss of life, right?
Yeah, those towers are a very attractive nuisance. I mean, and so people trespass, they climb over a fence, They try to climb the towers, and in the last 15 years or so, many people have been injured. 3 people have tragically died, including a 15-year-old boy earlier in the summer of 2025. And so for people who choose to ignore the signs and to climb over the fence that's clearly where you're not supposed to be, it can be very dangerous. Yeah, it's an old industrial artifact that's there for a reason.
Yes, and so I want to talk about the history of gasworks. What can you tell me?
Well, that spot, that beautiful spot at North Lake Union, the Olmsted architects identified that as a place for a public park as early as 1903. For some reason, a gasworks was built there instead in 1907, and it was there till the 1950s. So they took like coal and cracked it, a process called cracking, to create a gas for lighting and heating homes. That all wrapped up by the late 50s as natural gas came into use, and it sat there vacant. City of Seattle bought the property in the early 60s and decided to build a park there. Rather than tear down everything and put in tennis courts and picnic tables, a visionary landscape architect here in Seattle, a guy named Rich Hagg, had the idea of let's actually keep let's keep the artifacts. Let's build a park around the stuff. You can't overstate how radical that was. People thought Rich Hagg was bananas. Like, wait, it's all this rusty old stuff. Why would we want to keep it? And he said, no, let's honor the history, honor the geography, and create a unique park. And sure enough, 50 years ago when it debuts in the early 70s, it's an instant hit. It gets awards. People around the world have been inspired by that to build similar parks. And it's all right here in Seattle because of Rich Hagg. So and people love it. There's no doubt Gasworks is a quintessential Seattle park. I mean, it's sort of I don't know if it's the jewel in the crown, but it's a very important park in the whole park system.
It definitely is, and it's so iconic, like you say, when you're out on the water and you see that, it's such a great landmark to know where you are. The cracking towers and what's there today, what is keeping those elements so important?
Well, there's big tanks, big giant objects you can see from far away, but if you get pretty close, you can see all the walkways and these handrails and ladders. And those are the things that are the industrial elements that Rich Hagg wanted to keep. You could strip that stuff away, and that's what Seattle Parks wants to do. They figure that if you take away these little elements, they call them appurtenances, ladders and rails and catwalks, it makes it a less dangerous place. But it also kind of demolishes the history. And Seattle Parks had said that, Rich Hagg's intent was that this all stuff would sort of disintegrate and collapse into the earth. It would be allowed to be, that would happen over time, so we'd have to pull pieces off it. None of Rich Hagg's colleagues say that's the case. Rich passed away about 7 years ago. And so there's this debate about the intent of what Rich Hagg thought should really happen. It's pretty clear that preservation is what Rich Hagg had in mind. And they made up some diagrams that showed what it would look like if you took away all those ladders and things, and it totally changes the character. So there's got to be some kind of a balance, right? And so the Landmarks Preservation Board heard what Parks asked for and said, we want a long-range plan. It's almost as if you're asking to remove these things now, and then maybe a couple of years from now you want to come and remove more things. And the debate's been really quiet. It's been public meetings since September, but it seems like it should be a bigger conversation about how you balance history and safety, because nobody wants anyone to be hurt or to die, certainly. And if people follow the rules and they stay outside the fence and they not climb on it, that can happen. Because if you start to take the pieces away, this brilliant thing that Rich Hagg did. I mean, Rich Hagg should be better known in Seattle. He's known by people who know, right? If you know a landscape architect, and I got to work with him a few times 15 years ago.
You did, interesting.
Charismatic guy, just a great guy. But people should know that this park is worth celebrating. And if you start taking pieces away, it's almost like, this is his masterwork. It's like it's his Sistine Chapel. It's his, it's his Mona Lisa. And it's our responsibility to care for it and find ways to balance. Again, no one wants it to be unsafe.
Right. How do you balance then history and preservation and safety and all of it together when you're thinking about everything you need to now in 2025?
Well, I know Parks is going to add some lighting and some video surveillance. Part of it's education. I would love to see Rich Hagg's legacy be better known through this debate. It's gone on so quietly. I'd love to see a bigger public conversation where people can weigh in if they feel strongly in one way or the other. If they think, I've heard some people say, rip it all down, it's ugly. They don't understand the context. If you understand the story of how it came to be, how influential it is, and how much people love it, and if you've been there in person, and then looking at the video, you see the city skyline in the distance, but then you turn to the left and there's all these like gritty industrial things that speak to this history.
Gritty is a good word for it.
And Wallingford and Fremont these days, not a very gritty place. So this gritty history and these giant totemic artifacts, we don't know how good we have it. And if we don't take better care of it and plan for it and be smart about how we take care of it, Then we end up having these sort of weird kind of emergency debates about safety versus history. And that's not how a great city maintains its greatness. We think about big things like what Rich Hag did 50 years ago.
Right.
Brilliant innovator. Honor that and move forward in a smart, cool way.
So what do you think is next now that the Landmark Board did say no to removing the ladders?
I reached out to Seattle Parks and they said they honestly don't know. They said they might have some kind of a plan in the next few weeks. I think if they're smart, and I love Seattle Parks, they do a great job with maintenance and with all the parks that they take care of. I would love to see them work with the Friends of Gasworks Park, the little nonprofit group, work with the University of Washington, come up with a smart plan, honor Rich Hag's legacy, preserve as much of the park as possible, and keep it as safe as possible. It shouldn't be that difficult, I guess. And let's come up with a plan for the next 50 years. The park's lived 50 years now, it's been around. Let's come up, how do we get through the next 50 years of this park? How do we maintain it for our kids and grandkids? Because it's such a special part of Seattle.
Thank you, Felix. We appreciate your insight on this. And thank you to you all for spending time with us today. You can check our website for more of our content, and you can always send us an email to share your thoughts. Don't forget to enjoy your new day, and we'll see you next time.